I heard barking before I even opened the back door. Not just one bark, like a whole chorus. I stepped outside, and I swear, it looked like someone had opened a dog park in my backyard overnight. 5 dogs were running around, like it was a fenced-off public space. 2 of them were digging near my flower bed. One was drinking from Max's water bowl like it owned the place, and the other 2 were chasing each other around my patio table. And the owners? Oh, they were there too. A woman in yoga pants was sipping from a giant iced coffee while scrolling through her phone, like nothing was weird. Another guy actually had the nerve to nod at me and say, "Nice setup you've got here," as if he was at a resort. Then I saw her. One lady setting up a folding chair right in the corner of my yard, under the only bit of shade. She even had snacks. She was positioning herself like it was her personal front row seat to my complete mental collapse. I asked, "What is happening right now?" And someone shouted back, "It's just the temporary dog zone. Karen said it was approved." Karen. Of course it was Karen. I stood there, still half asleep, barefoot on the grass, just watching my own backyard get turned into some sort of doggy social hour. Max, my own dog, was too stunned to bark. He just stared at them, then looked up at me like, "You seeing this?" I didn't know what to say or do. Was this a prank? Was I on a hidden camera show? Who in their right mind thought this was okay? That's when I saw it. A sign, tied to my fence with zip ties. Community Pet Relief Area, Phase 1. Printed. Laminated. Like someone had actually planned this. And that was the moment I realized something was very, very wrong. When my wife and I bought this house, the backyard was what sold us. It's not massive or fancy, but it's private. Big hedges on all sides, no direct view from the neighbors, and a solid wooden fence that wraps around the whole thing. There's a small patio where I like to sit with my coffee, a patch of grass where Max usually naps in the sun, and a little corner where I've been trying and failing to grow tomatoes. It's quiet, and that's the point. I work from home, so I need that calm. No constant noise, no people walking by, no dogs barking at all hours. Just me, Max, and the sound of birds or lawnmowers in the distance. The house is on the edge of the neighborhood, kind of tucked away. We liked that it wasn't right in the middle of everything. Less foot traffic, fewer visitors. It felt like a little pocket of peace away from the usual chaos. And for a while, that's exactly what it was. Now, I should say, yes, we have an HOA. That was clear when we moved in. I figured it meant the lawns would stay clean and nobody would paint their house neon green. I didn't love the idea, but I also didn't expect them to show up in my life. They sent emails about potluck sign-ups and made people trim their hedges the same height. Annoying, but not terrible. Harmless, I thought, until the morning I woke up and found 5 strange dogs in my backyard, like it was a public dog beach. That's when I started looking at the HOA a little differently, because someone, somewhere, decided that my quiet little corner? It was now community space. The first real sign, literally, was a piece of laminated paper nailed to a short wooden stake, stuck just inside my fence line near the gate. It read, "Community Pet Relief Area, Phase 1. It had the HOA logo on it, and even a QR code, like it was part of some big launch. At first I laughed. I honestly thought it was a joke. Some neighbor messing around, maybe trying to be funny after seeing all the dogs running wild the day before, but the sign looked official. Too clean, too planned. And Phase 1? What did that mean? That more was coming? I went inside, pulled up the latest HOA newsletter. I usually delete them without reading, but this time I clicked. And there it was, right in the middle of a section called Community Wellness and Outdoor Use, a short paragraph about utilizing underused green space for communal benefit, and enhancing pet owner experiences through shared access zones. No names, no addresses. But I knew exactly which green space they meant. My backyard. That's when I remembered Karen. I'd met her once, briefly, at a holiday event when we first moved in. She was the HOA president, and she had the kind of energy you couldn't escape from. The clipboard type. Always organizing something. She smiled way too hard and talked like she was always giving a tour of a museum. That day, she'd cornered us near the cookie table and asked if we'd be open to hosting future community efforts, since we had such a welcoming layout. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But now, staring at this laminated sign on my own land, her words hit differently. This wasn't a prank. It was a plan. And she'd already started it. I decided to deal with it face to face. The HOA office was set up inside an old model home near the front of the neighborhood. It still had that fake staged furniture and a weird smell like air freshener and printer ink. Karen was there, sitting behind a desk that was way too big for the room, smiling like she was trying to sell me a vacation package. "Oh, you must be here about the pet zone," she said before I even opened my mouth. "Isn't it exciting? We've had such great feedback already," I told her, calmly at first, that it wasn't exciting at all, because the so-called pet zone was in my yard, my private fenced-in backyard. She smiled again, tight this time, and tilted her head like I was confused. "It's just temporary," she said, "while we test the concept. You know, for the greater good." I asked who approved it. She tapped her tablet and said, "The board voted last month." Unanimous. I told her no one had asked me. I reminded her that the land was on my deed. Her smile didn't move. She turned the screen toward me and said, "Well, technically, it's adjacent green space. That puts it under soft zoning." I had no clue what soft zoning meant, and I'm pretty sure she was counting on that. I asked to see where that was written in any actual policy. She said she'd be happy to bring it up at the next board meeting, in 3 weeks. I told her I wasn't waiting 3 weeks while strangers used my backyard as a bathroom for their pets. She just nodded and said, "We'll take it under consideration." Then she looked down and started typing like I'd already left. I walked out of that office boiling. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was something else, something planned. The next morning I woke up to the sound of shovels. Not birds, not wind, shovels. I looked out the window and almost fell over. My back fence. Gone. Not just opened, but removed. In its place was a strip of cheap green turf rolled out like a welcome mat, running straight across my yard. They'd even set up one of those metal dog bag dispensers, bolted into the ground near my garden hose. And a little wooden sign that said, "Pet Play Zone. Please clean up after your pup," with a cartoon paw print. I was speechless. They'd worked fast. Less than 24 hours after that weird clipboard talk with Karen, my yard had been turned into a full-on dog park. No warning, no notice. Just boom, free for all. It wasn't just the dogs either. People were using my yard like it was a public trail. I counted 7. Yes, 7. Different neighbors walking straight through my property like they were on some kind of scenic route. One lady even waved at me through the kitchen window while her dog peed on my tomato plants. It didn't stop there. Around noon, I caught a group of kids playing fetch near the side gate. At first I thought, okay, maybe they're lost or cutting through. But then I saw one of them wind up and launch a tennis ball. It bounced off the patio wall and smacked right into the glass of my sliding door. Max barked so loud he knocked over a chair. I ran outside. The kid froze, mid-throw, while his friend started backing away. I asked him what he was doing. He shrugged and said, "We thought this was like open space now?" Then he pointed to the turf and said, "Karen said this is for everybody. That was it." That was the moment something in me snapped. I wasn't just being ignored. I was being walked over, literally. And now I knew for sure, this wasn't stopping unless I made it stop. I called my cousin Dave that night. He's not a lawyer or anything official, but he's the guy I call when things go sideways. Retired Army. Now works part-time fixing up old motorcycles, and somehow knows more about property laws than half the people on the HOA board. I didn't even finish explaining what was going on before he said, "You need cameras and a plan." Dave showed up the next morning with a trunk full of gear. 2 trail cams, a dash cam, and a weird little spy pen, he said, might come in handy. He helped me set everything up. 1 camera facing the gate, 1 by the patio, and a hidden one tucked into the hedge line. He told me not to argue with anyone, not to take the signs down, and definitely not to block the path. "Let them keep walking through," he said. "We're building a case. The longer they think you're not doing anything, the better. It went against everything in me not to shout at the next person who let their dog poop near my grill." But Dave was right. Every time someone walked through, every time a dog dug up my yard, or a kid ran by throwing tennis balls like it was PE class, it got caught on camera. One night, after reviewing the footage with a grin, Dave said something that stuck with me. He leaned back, took a sip of his soda, and said, "You don't just want to stop them. You want to make sure they never try it again." That's when the idea started forming. Not just a fence, not just fences, something better. Something annoying, something unforgettable. Dave looked over at me and smirked. "Don't stop them, yet." That weekend, I decided it was time to stop being polite. Not violent, not rude, just petty. The first thing I did was order a set of motion-activated sprinklers. They were meant to keep deer out of gardens, but I figured they'd work just fine on 2-legged pests and their 4-legged poop machines. I set them up along the turf line, angled perfectly to catch anyone stepping foot where they didn't belong. Then I added signs. Bright yellow ones, screwed into wooden stakes that I hammered into the ground myself. They read, "Not a dog park. Violators will be moist." I added a smiley face to keep it passive-aggressive. Next came the sound. Dave had this little speaker that played high-frequency tones only dogs could hear. I rigged it near the back fence, programmed to go off any time someone triggered the motion sensor. It wasn't loud for humans. But the dogs? Oh, they hated it. Instant ear twitches, confused spins, tail tucks, and whining. A few even bolted straight back the way they came, dragging their owners behind them like sleds. The first day was beautiful. I sat on my porch with Max, coffee in hand, and watched the chaos unfold like a low-budget nature show. One guy in gym shorts got blasted full-on in the chest while trying to untangle his dog's leash. Soaked. A woman in heels took a sharp hit to the ankle, screamed, and dropped her phone in the grass. Her dog sprinted off while she cursed at the sprinkler like it was alive. The best moment, though? Karen. She came marching through with her clipboard and her fake smile, probably checking on her little Phase 1 success. She made it 5 steps past the gate before the first sprinkler spun up and smacked her right in the back. She screamed, jumped, and dropped her pen. The second sprinkler caught her legs as she turned to leave, completely soaked from the knees down. Her clipboard? Ruined. Her pride? Even more so. She stood there, dripping, looking around like she couldn't believe it. Then she locked eyes with my new sign and read it out loud. "Violators will be moist?" I just raised my coffee mug and nodded. The war had started. And I was winning. Just when I thought Karen had backed off, I got a letter taped to my front door. Not mailed. Taped, like a warning sign in a horror movie. It had the HOA letterhead, and her name typed at the bottom, bold and underlined like she was proud of it. The note said, "As the host of the Community Pet Relief Area, You are required to maintain cleanliness and safety standards, including regular waste removal and turf care. Attached to it? A fine, $75, for failure to uphold communal space standards. That was it. That was the last straw. They turned my backyard into a dog toilet without asking, let random people walk through my fence, soaked Karen's knockoff designer shoes with my revenge sprinklers, and now they wanted me to maintain it and pay them because I hadn't? I didn't even finish reading the rest. I crumpled the paper, walked into the garage, and pulled out my old toolbox. I hadn't used it for anything serious in a while, but the moment I popped it open, I felt calm. Like something finally clicked. I grabbed a notebook, sat on the floor with Max next to me, and started sketching. Not a fence, not a wall, a moat. It wouldn't hold water, not really. But it would look like something you'd have to think twice about stepping across, deep enough to trip over, wide enough to make anyone pause, filled with decorative rocks, thick shrubs, maybe a few fake snakes for flair. I was done playing defense. If they wanted this to be a community battle, I'd bring castle-level energy. I looked over at Max and said, "They want medieval? Fine. I'll give them medieval." In this part, the tension builds up as you reveal your big plan. You've spent time designing a shallow trench that circles the area, filled with decorative rocks and water jets that can shoot up unexpectedly. It's not just for looks. You've rigged sprinklers to PIR sensors, so anyone who steps too close gets an unwanted spray of water. The finishing touch is the private property signs, with a red X shaped like a dog in front of the area, sending a clear message. No pets allowed. Karen, always quick to criticize, decides to take a stroll through the area with the HOA board in tow. She doesn't expect what's coming. As she walks into the zone, the sprinklers activate, soaking her completely. She's stunned, but she tries to brush it off, thinking it's some kind of fluke. The board members, however, aren't as forgiving. They see the setup for what it is, and you've got them on your side. At the next HOA meeting, you come prepared. You've got photos and videos of the whole incident, showing Karen clearly walking into the area and getting drenched. You also bring the land deed, proving that the area is, in fact, your private property. Karen, not one to back down, tries to argue. But you're ready for her. You present your case in the most professional way possible, asking, pet zone or theft of property? The message is clear. She's not just been disrespectful of your space, she's potentially trespassed. Karen stumbles over her words, realizing she's losing ground. The HOA members are starting to see your side of things. You've taken the high road by showing the evidence, while Karen's emotional reaction is starting to look more like a desperate defense. It's a showdown, and it looks like you're winning. After the meeting, things take a turn. Karen, clearly realizing she's lost, decides to step down from her position in the HOA. She can't argue her way out of it anymore. The HOA, embarrassed by the situation, issues a formal apology, acknowledging that they were wrong to let her control things for so long. It feels like a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. Meanwhile, your yard has become the talk of the neighborhood, but not in the way Karen would have hoped. The local kids start calling it the Splash Zone, a nickname that sticks. Every time the sprinklers go off, you can hear their laughter from the street. It's a reminder that what you set up wasn't just a petty move. It became something more. It became a statement. To celebrate the win, you decide to throw a BBQ. You hang up signs around the yard with a simple message. No pets, no problems. It's both a warning and an invitation for everyone to join in, without fear of stepping into a mess. The event is casual, but it feels like the perfect way to put everything behind you and let the neighborhood see that you've come out on top. As the day winds down and you're standing in your yard, watching the kids play in the mist of the sprinklers, You can't help but smile. The whole situation, from Karen's overbearing attitude to the water jets, has worked out in your favor. It's been a strange ride, but in the end, you realize that sometimes the best way to protect your peace isn't by arguing or fighting. It's by using pressure valves and a little passive aggression.